before we left Mitzrayim, Kodesh Baruch Hu gave us two mitzvos: the mitzvah of Milah and the mitzvah of Korban Pesach. To be circumcised was a prerequisite to being able to bring the Korban Pesach. If one was what we classify as an Orel, he wasn't qualified to bring the Korban Pesach. So every male Jew had himself circumcised and circumcised his children to qualify them for the Korban Pesach. Why did he give them these mitzvos? It's based on a pasuk in Yechezkel that Hashem had seen us orim ve'erya. We were totally devoid of spirituality. So he gave us these two mitzvahs to make us worthy of redemption. And the mitzvahs he chose was Milah and Pesach. If it was just a question of making us worthy, we have Tarek mitzvahs. We have 248 mitzvahs aseh. Why did he specifically choose Milah and Pesach, the Paschal lamb, which is the goat or the sheep? So the goat and sheep, that's simple. We know that the goat and sheep, that was the deity of Egypt, and the Jews themselves were over the Avodah Zorah. They were pagans in Egypt. So to negate this and to sever themselves and to show that they're rejecting their past relationship, therefore they had to slaughter the sheep, the goat, to bring it as a sacrifice to Hashem. That was the Korban Pesach. What was the Milah? We know that Milah is Bris Kodesh. It's the covenant between us and Hashem. The objective of leaving Mitzrayim was to go to become the Am Hashem at Sinai. It was Kabbalas HaTorah. So therefore, before we leave Egypt to go to Sinai, we have to have the Bris Kodesh reinstated. To identify, we need the Bris Shechsamte B'Sarenu. We need the covenant engraved in our flesh. We find that Moshe Rabbeinu, when he was returning to Mitzrayim with his family, he had to circumcise his second child. And because he hesitated and he delayed for a moment, he was nearly killed. A snake came, swallowed him from his feet to his waist, from his head down to his waist. And Tzipporah's wife understood that the reason why his life was in jeopardy was because he didn't circumcise his second son. And the Torah tells us Tzipporah took a stone and she circumcised him. And immediately this serpent let up. Chazal tell us that the only one who was qualified to be the Goel was only Moshe Rabbeinu. If Moshe Rabbeinu would have been killed, that means there wouldn't have been a Gula. The Jews would have never left Egypt. There would have never been a Kabbalas HaTorah. The objective of creation would have never been met because it's only Yisrael Sh'dika Reishis and Torah Sh'dika Reishis. The only people that are qualified for the Torah, only Klal Yisrael. And yet, because Moshe Rabbeinu, he had hesitated regarding mitzvah Milah, he would have died. Hashem would have allowed him to be killed because there would have been a claim against him. But by allowing this to happen, the objective of creation wouldn't have happened. The question is why? So we once had said, we find, when did the bondage begin and when was it intensified? The Jews themselves said, Niu Kamitzrim, we want to be like the Egyptians, we're not going to circumcise ourselves any longer. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that if you're going to break the covenant, the Egyptians who had admired you and revered you, they will hate you. And this is the beginning of the bondage to slavery. So what precipitated, what activated the bondage? The negation, the nullification of the Bris Kodesh. Moshe Rabbeinu is coming back as the Goel, as the Redeemer of Israel. If he himself is deficient in this area, even though it's as a result of hesitation, the basis for the bondage is this. So Moshe is repeating and recreating the setting why the bondage initially happened. Therefore, he's not qualified, regardless. The reason why we were given the bris, because what brought about the bondage? It was the nullification of the relationship. We wanted to sever. We said we want to be like Egyptians, not to circumcise ourselves. Hashem says you have to reinstate that. Only once that's reinstated, the bris kodesh, the covenant between us, only then are you qualified to become the Am Hashem.